What is going on, Shadow Walkers? Here we are for the month in review. 4 episodes in. This is the 5th. What's up, player? Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your support. It's the fucking best. This whole month has been crazy. We've talked about so much shit, and so let's get into it. Let's get into some of the things that I missed, some of the shit that I couldn't say or didn't really want to say in that episode because it was going to derail and whatever and whatnot. And this is where I can just rant and we can get out all those little things that I wasn't able to get to within the show. All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of Bright Lights and Scary Shadows. Drop that fucking beat. Dum ba dum boom boom boom. Bum ba dum ba dum boom. Bum ba dum ba dum boom. Yeah, what the fuck is going on, people? Dude, what's up? 4 episodes in, very excited to be here at the quarterly review and to be able to touch on everything that we didn't get to touch on during the show. And yeah, man, this has been fucking wild. I have learned so much that I didn't know initially. I knew a lot going in, but there was a lot here that I didn't know, and I'm pleasantly surprised to get all of that, right? But within all of the information that we went over through all of the episodes up until this point, there has been a lot that we haven't really been able to get into. Some of it because I didn't want to go too deep in, some of it because I just couldn't get to it or didn't really want to derail the show. So let's get into it. All the way back, right? All the way back, like it was so far back, right? Back in episode 1, America, NASA, and Nazis. That was a lot. There was so much information there that I had to cut out because trying to cover all that ground, that was such a broad stroke, and I drove myself nuts trying to get that one done, and I way overwrote for it, and it was insane, you know. But looking at what the Nazis were into, looking at how deep it went, the secret societies, the Anunnaki, the Thule, the Vril, talking to different planets, Aldebaran, and all of that shit, like that was fucking nuts. And the thing about that too is that those situations, those cults, those secret societies, they never died. They never just went away. They still very much exist. Or at least I would assume, right? Like that shit just doesn't go away. Like Freemasons wouldn't just go away. It would still exist, you know? And so we have this situation where all of these things still exist. And one of the big things with the Nazis, right? And they really hated the Jews. And I have this whole thing where it's the Nazis never really died because the Nazis were really a thing. The Nazis were just a political symbolism. You know what I mean? It wasn't an actual group. The actual group were the people that were behind it, funding it, fueling it, you know, pushing it. And even though the Nazis lost the war, all of their top head people got, you know, split up and divvied up in between the rest of the world. You know, if America didn't take them, if they got sent away, they got put somewhere else, another country got them, and so on and so forth. And so we see like that these people never went away. They kept going. And so all these ideologies still exist, right? Like it's got to be the huge reason as to why, you know, Nazism is still running rampant throughout the world, right? I don't know if any of you looked up the Nazis in Argentina and all of that shit, but that is crazy. And some of the top KKK neo-Nazi people have come from Argentina, like they're Argentina nationalists, you know? And that is fucking crazy. It's crazy to think that Nazism, like there's such a hateful view still exists, you know? But it does. And these ideologies are still very much real. And so we have these people that are still alive that hated the Jews, that hated all of these things. And then, you know, the Jews are very much, you know, running a lot of things nowadays. And so in America, there's these groups of people. There's 2 groups, right? There's the Jewish and then there's the people that hate the Jews. And you would think that they still do, right? Like that shit's like deep-seated value shit. Like that shit was deep rooted in like biblical, all kinds of shit, like where that master race shit, like that was real. Like, that was way beyond just a Nazi party. That was a whole group of people behind that still felt that way outside of the political regime, you know? And so I always wonder about that, you know? And especially when you look at all the Nazi programs that they had running, that we brought over here and that we had running, you know, MK Ultra, all this shit, like all these programs were all directly related to a German science that they had, not Nazi science that was going on. And all the way down to opioids. Like, even the opioid crisis can be tracked back to fucking Nazi shit, where they were doing work with opioids and medicines and pushing that on their soldiers and shit. And even that, like, look at the Nazis and what they were doing there, right? Like, they were jacking their people up full of methamphetamines and launching them out into war. Like, that's why the German soldiers were so fucking ridiculously insane. And that's why a lot of them did such horrendous shit. It's not because the German people are inherently sadistic. It's because they were fucking jacked up on meth. You know, that's the same thing like you saw what was happening with American troops in Vietnam, where they were going in and fucking torching whole villages and killing all the people, women, children, everything, because they were fucking jacked up on acid and all kinds of other shit and all fucked up out of their mind because that was the only way to cope. And that's the shit that they were being fed. But those are the actions that you get from somebody that's drug induced, you know? And then even beyond that, right? So Hitler himself was a fucking addict. Right, like after they tried to kill Hitler, and the guy had a desk bomb, and it fucked Hitler's whole leg up. And before that point, he was like wicked stern anti-drug use, and people that were drug addicts were, you know, in the fucking chamber. You know, you went right to Auschwitz. And here he is now trying to hide his injury, and it was so bad that he ended up getting heavily hooked on drugs. And towards the end, it was said that his arm had like a whole shake and everything like that. Like, he was like super duper hooked up. Like, he was like Michael Jackson status, supposedly, like where he just had a doctor that was just fucking pumping him up. Oh, you gotta go to sleep? Fucking Hail Hitler, bro. Boom. There you go. Oh, you're in some pain? Fucking Hail Hitler, bro. There you go. Boom. I will do whatever you want. Just don't fucking kill me. And it was just, it's just so deep, and there's so many layers. And so many of the other topics and the other things that we went over all kind of trace right back to the Nazis and everything, which was fucking insane to see actually how relevant that time was in between all of the technology and all of that shit. And even in that, right, like they were so technologically advanced, and there's all these alien stories and whatever and whatnot, you know, but yeah, at the end of the day, like if you look at some of the people that were involved and some of the things that were going on, a lot of the progress that they made was off the backs of prisoners. Either that, or they were people that were doing whatever they could just to stay alive. I can't imagine the type of ingenuity that runs through your head when your fucking neck's up against the guillotine. I'm sure you can think of a bunch of fucking ideas to do shit. Even if you don't even know if it's gonna work, fuck it, try it, right? Anything, dude, anything. But yeah, the Nazis, man, that whole regime was crazy. And to think of it, too, as being more of a battle between secret societies as opposed to nations, you know, because they were all against the Jews, and they were against the Freemasons, who they felt like supported the Jews and the Jew money and all of that. And so that's really what it was more about. It wasn't necessarily this battle against nations. Like, that wasn't really anything to do with it. Hitler just had to conquer shit for the resources and all that, so he could make his play against all the Freemasons and the Jews. And I wonder, right? Like, if Hitler could come back, if we could bring Hitler back for one day, right, and just let him see what the world is now, he'd probably fucking have like a heart attack all over again. Mein Gott! And just fucking keel over, right? Because I mean, right, like the world that he was fighting, the people that he was fighting against, that he viewed as being the enemies, are very much in control of the world today, you know? And I know it's like a big thing, and I don't want to be all heavily controversial or scrutinized, but I mean, the Jewish do run like a lot of the money, right? Like they lead up a lot of the banks. Like the people that are in those positions have Jewish names, and the people that run the world and have the world under their thumb are very much the Freemasons, you know? And we can paint that in whatever picture we want, and I'm not trying to say Hitler was right and America and everybody else is wrong. I'm just saying, objectively, when you look at it, right? I don't know. You know, the world's still kind of fucked, right? And it's like, I would love to see, you know, I totally think that if Hitler came back for one day, that he would just have like a coronary, you know, get somebody like Werner Herzog to like walk him around and talk to him about shit, you know. And this is where they hold all of the money now. And this is where their lodges are. Yes, they control everything. But then, he could easily spin that coin, right? And show, the other shit that they've also accomplished, and I beg to differ with Hitler or with Germany really losing anything, or even the Nazis, because, again, like I said before, a lot of the high-ranking officials all got put in places of comfort within other nations, right? And even beyond that, Germany has never been more powerful than they are right now. You can't fucking touch Germany. Nobody can. And if anybody fucks with Germany, it's not going to be good. I would not do that. Nein, this is not a good idea. They're not like the Russians. They know exactly where the fuck their bombs are. They're not bullshitting. Or at least maybe that was like the old Russians, the old Soviets, But yeah, the crazy implications all the way down to today. And one of the things that I never really got to go over, or I didn't really want to go over in the episode, was the Foo Fighters. And I only kind of touched on them lightly. But now that we've taken this walk and we've gone to space and we've gone over Tesla and touched on a few things there, we can kind of look back at the Foo Fighters now. So if you've looked up Otis T. Carr's designs, the OTCX, the OTCX1, or if you looked up Tesla's designs, you can see those. And then if you looked up the Vril 1, which was the German UFO, and you can see that they all look very, very similar. And they were all this small craft, right? And the small craft was very, very limited into its capacity. Now, if you listen to Tesla's episode, we went over an interview that was done by George Klein, an aviation expert out of Germany. And he said that between 41 and 45 that they were already testing UFOs and extraterrestrial craft. And then during that time as well was when the Foo Fighters were being seen. And even during that time as well, we're 2 years away from when Tesla was murdered or died, however you want to call that. 2 years out of that, all of his work's confiscated out of the fucking blue by the alien department, which I think is funny. Right after that, Otis T. Carr is building the fucking OTCX1, and then George Klein is talking about how they're coming up with all kinds of other shit out there. And then even beyond that, there was a Austrian philosopher and scientist by the name of Victor Schwarberger. Schwarberger? Hamburger. All right, enough of that. Victor Schwarberger. And, he built the repulsing engine and another engine, and he built whole crafts. Like, look him up. Look at the shit that he was designing for the Nazis, too. And he was in an internment camp, to go on what I was saying a little while ago. The shit that he was doing was to fucking save his life. So this dude was coming up with all kinds of shit. And if you look at the engines that he made, they remind me of some of those pulse engines that we see and that you hear about all these weird chemtrails and the weird projects that they have going on and shit like that. And some of his engines very much remind me of these current projects that we have going on, which seems like the technology has severely advanced, right? And even in that, right? So one of the designs that Schwarberger was working on was the Horton Flying Wing, the HO220? Oh, I'm sorry. I might be messing that up. I didn't write that down. But I think that's what it was. And it was the Flying Wing machine by the Horton brothers. And that ended up becoming the B-2 bomber, the stealth B-2 bomber, right? And now, if you look at his designs with modern propulsion, you get a B-2 bomber. You get a stealth B-2 bomber at that, because the Germans were already messing with stealth technology. And then on top of that, if you throw in like a repulsing engine or Tesla's anti-gravity engine or any kind of gravity engine, boom, you're in fucking business, right? And I think that is the basis of the TR-3B, that big triangle UFO that everybody keeps seeing around. And they're like, oh, look at the big triangle aliens. And that's not a fucking alien craft. Look it up. It's a TR-3B. It's very much terrestrial. It's very much based on all these fucking dudes' designs and all of their work. Call it what you will, alien intervention, fucking genius, mad strokes of life-saving design, what have you, But But this did not come from outer space. Like, we got to stop thinking that some of this shit came from outer fucking space, because most of it didn't, all right? We're smarter than that, guys. We're way fucking smarter than we give ourselves credit for. And we got to stop doing that shit. We got to see these men and give them all the credit that they deserve, outside of anything else, because we don't know, really, we don't know if any of these people, we do know that, Maria Orsic, for one, who supposedly was giving them designs on how to build these crafts, was supposedly talking to other people. We know that Tesla was supposedly in communication with other people, whether that was through his visions or whatever. We're going to get to that in a minute. And so on and so forth, but here's a lot of this stuff being pumped out by human minds, human hands. And that's fucking crazy. It's crazy to think that there's so much of this shit that's just being kept from us. And even how I said before, like, it was already twice in 4 episodes that I came across information saying that the government was opposed to flying machines of that nature because they felt that it was going to, derail the monetary system. However, they figured that would work, right? So now even to continue on with the Foo Fighters, right? The Foo Fighters came around in the late 40s, almost right after Tesla died. Actually, the Foo Fighters show up right around Tesla's death, right? And the Foo Fighters were always said to only be able to, in short range areas, like it didn't seem like they would go for long range. It was only in short bursts that the Foo Fighters were able to hamper or cause problems for Allied fighters. Also, they would glow. They would bright glow. And to me, looking at how the Wardenclyffe Towers were supposed to operate and how his IFO was supposed to operate, drawing power from the Wardenclyffe Towers, and it seems like the Foo Fighters are Tesla's designs. They could only operate within range of a tower. And that's why they weren't equipped with much. They were so small, they couldn't really do much, But there was a raid, right? There was a raid on, where is it? Let me find it in my notes really quick. There was a raid on a ball bearing plant. Yes, it was the Schweinfurt ball bearing factory, right? And there was a huge, massive bombing raid. And I think I did touch on it briefly. There was this huge, massive bombing raid on this ball bearing plant because the ball bearing plants were fucking hugely, hugely needed for everything that was going on in any machine. Especially back then. Today too, ball bearings make war machines fucking run. And this was one of the biggest plants that they had in production, and it meant everything to the German army. And so they sent wave after wave of bombers to go in there and blow that motherfucker up, right? And they go and they do one successful run, and supposedly almost 24 Foo Fighters came flying out and started to hamper and cause problems for the bombers and shit. And there's 2 stories, right? The one story is that it was just a few German fighters and they were able to wipe out like almost an entire squadron of aircraft, bombers, fighters, everything. Now, the other side is that there were a bunch of Polish POWs that were being held nearby who saw the whole thing. And they said, from their account, that all they saw was about 20 minutes into the raid, about 24 Foo Fighters flooded the sky and just started fucking up the planes. Now, a Foo Fighter wasn't able to be equipped with any kind of advanced offensive capabilities, right? But what they could be equipped with was a klystron tube. Now, look up this thing, right? Now, there was a video that I had come across about a klystron tube, and you might find it, right? It's this really, really old guy in a blazer and a button down. He's got glasses, white hair, and he's standing next to about a 5 foot tall klystron tube. And he's explaining how it works, and he's trying to avoid saying like how it was powered. He's like, when we got this, and we weren't even allowed to know. And he kind of divulges that there was a huge top secret nature to the klystron tube when they came in contact with it, because they themselves had no idea how to power it. And it took them years to be able to figure out a way to actually power the klystron tube. Now, a klystron tube can be found in, or could be found in almost anything for a while. They were in TVs. It was a great way to amplify power within a short area. With a klystron tube equipped as an offensive weapon, you can kind of create a cavity in front of an area and superheat the air. And then once a plane goes through it, it causes like a chain reaction from the plane's engines and the fuel that's going on. I'm sorry I can't break that down better for you, but read about it. It's very interesting. And supposedly, or not supposedly, but I believe that that's what the Foo Fighters had equipped on them during that battle, because up to that point, the Foo Fighters weren't able to be offensive. They were only able to hamper and annoy the Allied aircraft. But then now, during this, towards the end of the war, because this happened in 44, and this is like right towards the end. And so now the Foo Fighters have this ability to create these air pocket cavities that cause a plane to just fucking get destroyed when it flies into it. And so that's what happened, supposedly, is that these Foo Fighters came out and they just fucked up this entire fleet. And look it up. Like, you'll get... look at how many planes were lost in that fight. And the official story is, a few German fighters and anti-air weapons. But other accounts told of the story tell a very, very different tale. And the Foo Fighters are very, very real. We got to stop thinking or putting them in the realm of science fiction, because they're not. They're not. Like, there's proof. If you followed this trail with me this whole time, there's proof of their existence. So yeah, it's just fucking nuts to look back at this whole thing and see how we got to where we are now, and to see where our heads are at now. Our heads are so in the fucking clouds. All of this alien shit. We're so caught up on aliens. And now, not to say that aliens don't exist and that they don't partake, because we can tell every creation tale and every religion. What do we all say? What does everything say? Sky people came down and they taught us this, they gave us this, made us like them. So to me, well, that's aliens. That's extraterrestrials came down here and did that. Because every tale talks about the sky people. And all throughout time, people came down from the sky and gave us gifts. So to sit here and deny their existence is futile. It's foolish. They weren't gods, they were aliens. And that's one that I'm really looking forward to getting into. We're going to have a whole episodic series within the show, just like Weird Science, where, we go over Tesla and Edison and all kinds of other great minds that existed over the time. And then we have gods and aliens, creation tales from Earth. And we're going to go over all the different creation tales and all kinds of different tales of godly or alien intervention. I think one of the first ones we're going to touch on is the Terra Papers, which I found a very, very fascinating read, which is about these Native Americans and these tribes that were saved by these people that came up from underground and saved them. It's a really wild tale. And so I want to go over all those different tales throughout time of where people said that they were guided or influenced or created by some other godly entities other than human. That is. And so that one's going to be really, really fun to do, and see if we can make some more connections and link some more dots, within that one as well, and in that whole process of discovery. And so even like after all of that shit, and to think about all the different spaceships and that, and then to think of all the different type of things that we could do with space, and then to follow in with the next episode about space stations and satellites and the final frontier of war, which is definitely going to be space. That episode fucking blew my mind. I had no idea how close we were to basically World War III in space. We are fucking close. Every nation is running to militarize space. Fucking running. Or not running, flying, however you want to fucking say that. But they're all China, India, Japan, America, Russia, England, everybody's trying to get out there and militarize the fuck out of space. And it's coming, guys. It's fucking coming. Read about that shit. That shit fucking blew my mind. Like, and then, in the middle of a pandemic, like, that's the last thing I need to be worried about is space war or World War III. Even beyond that, right? Like, all of NASA's programs that they have going on for deep space shit, going to the moon. Everybody's going back to the moon now. We have solid plans to go to Mars. Space hotels, right? So much stuff, guys. Like, can you believe that? Like, we're going to be able to go spend a fucking weekend in space pretty soon. Well, not us. Well, maybe us. I don't know. Maybe you fucking a millionaire, Maybe I will be one day too. Who knows, right? Fingers crossed, guys. But that's a fucking possibility. And that's coming by, like, they were saying by 2025, they were trying to have that shit ready to roll. And they're already working on it. Like, that's crazy. That's fucking, we're going to see space station hotels in our time. That's fucking nuts. And to think that we don't have some other kind of craft ready for that, like, that's nuts, right? Like, there's got to be something else in the wings here that's ready for all of this to pop off, right? But, and how about all the different satellites too, no? Like, those satellites that have, like, the robotic arms that can come out and fucking snatch up your shit and then beat it up and fuck it up and then release it to die. The ones that just fucking spray the chemicals all around your satellite to fuck it all up and mess up all the lenses and eat away at it like an acid. You know, the particle beam weapons that can fucking just melt them. All of that shit. Like, this is so crazy, right? So fucking crazy, all of that shit. And then, like, the new satellites that they have coming out that are supposedly, like, the size of a shoebox, you know? Like, we see satellites, and the satellites that we've known were, you know, the size of a small car. But now they're the size of a fucking, you know, Nike box. Like, that's nuts to see how far that we've come in technological advancement. You know, in just the past 20 years, it's fucking insane. And that's the other thing, too, is that I was saying in the first episode, is to see how quickly the human race advanced in just 20 years when human minds were grinding the fuck away. You know, and then you look at how far we've come now. And there's got to be more that we don't know about. Like, there has to be. I mean, even in that instance, the TR-3B, the triangle spaceship, that's fucking real. That's real. You can pull it up. There's images, there's videos. It's real. And now here we are today fucking looking at space stations and all of this shit, man. Dude, it's nuts. I was mind blown by that episode. And a little terrified to think about how China and America are going to be trying to put fucking military bases on the moon. And there's a lot more. While we sit here and worry about this pandemic and, you know, football and which team Tom Brady plays for now, and there is literally so much more going on that we don't even know. And even we get caught up in Trump's Space Force, which we've had since fucking God knows how long. And we get caught up in thinking like this is a new thing now, and like, no, it's not. And then even to come find out how many other countries have had a space force and whatever and whatnot for God knows how fucking long as well. It's a trip. And Iran themselves, right? They're going into fucking space as well, which is a fucking trip. You know, and even when it comes to Iran, there was one thing that I didn't really get to talk about, which was the White Revolution. And that was what Mohammad Reza Shah was trying to implement in Iran. And that whole shit was fucking pretty dope when you look at it. He was really trying to break the religious oppression that had held Iran since God knows when. And that whole secular view, he didn't like it. And he was really trying to change all of that. And I gotta respect him for that. I just wish he was a stronger man, like he was when he was older and facing his death. If he was that badass dude when he was younger, we're looking at a different Iran. You know, not this fucking crazy, you know, Allahu Akbar, fucking suicide bombing, fucking Taliban funding shit. And even in that, it's like to go over everything that we looked at that happened between them and America. Like, that shit was crazy. Like, they had a democratically elected government and we fucking overthrew that shit. Like, that's nuts that we got away with that shit. Nuts that we got away with it, you know? And then furthermore, to look at how it's thrown Iran into just pure chaos since then, and it has had them in the grip of tyrannical, fucking brutal people. And that was a huge turning point for America, because up to that point, we had not engaged in covert warfare like that. We had engaged in some, like, well, I shouldn't say that, because that all was birthed between, you know, the joint operations shit that was going on during World War II and all the espionage and spying that was being done to combat Hitler's spy network and to get in there and trying to end the war. And then so after the World War, all those countries broke off, you know, and so from that you end up with like MI5, you end up with the CIA, you end up with all these clandestine organizations that were all running clandestine operations during World War II. And that was Truman's baby. You know, Truman wasn't trying to use that shit for, you know, clandestine shit to overthrow a fucking another country. And then here come the Dulles brothers, and here comes Eisenhower and Nixon. And the Dulles brothers fucking whisper those sweet words into, you know, Eisenhower's ear. And, oh, communism, oh, the spooky Russians, they're going to come, they're already over there, they're going to do it. And that led him to give the okay, right, to send fucking Kermit Roosevelt in there and just fuck shit up. And fucked them up forever, dude. And that changed America's entire foreign policy dealings from then on out. Like, we went from being, like, before that point, we were a beacon. And then after that point, we became a fucking demon, overthrowing all kinds of countries ever since then, or attempting to overthrow countries since then, you know, left and fucking right. And even Eisenhower said himself, he was like, this is way more cost effective than full-out war and full-out attacks. You know, you send in a few people, you cause chaos, and, you know, the rest plays itself out. And even that, like, that kind of pisses me off about us as humans and how caught up we are on personal greed is that we can be paid to go out there and just for no reason other than the fact that we were paid and just start attacking our fellow people. Like, that's fucking nuts, right? Like, is that how much money means to us in this world and the way our world is set up, that we're willing to just murder each other just fucking because you're willing to give me some money? That shit was crazy, just to see how he would pay a group and then send that group out to go fuck shit up and then hire another group to go fuck that group up. And then other people would come out and then he would have the police come out and start fucking shooting at all those groups. Like, just insane, And to think that we've been doing that ever since then as well. It never stopped. If anything, it's gotten a million times better. Read a book called The Spook Behind the Door. Great book, great read, all about espionage and the CIA and shit. Love that book. But yeah, I mean, that's when we ended up with the boogeymen. Thought we already had the really scary ones up to that point, where we had fucking the NSA and all that shit being created with Project Signs and Blue Book and all of that. But now we got the CIA, and these motherfuckers are crazy. These dudes have been doing a whole bunch of wild shit for a long fucking time, no? And there's one there that I cannot wait to get into. There's some stuff that we're going to get into about some of the CIA operations in the future that are fucking wild. And one of the things that we're going to look at is the rise of Bush and how he started and his dealings within the CIA and his dealings with Kennedy and all of that. And that one's going to be a really, really fun one. And I can't wait to do that one. Doing those episodes and getting like this always kind of scares me because I don't trust our government right now. Like, I don't trust Trump to not be just out for dissenters in any way, shape, or form. And I am definitely dissenting in a lot of my opinions, right? Moving on, right? So the Tesla episode, there was so much there. And one of the things I hardcore avoided was his whole alien connection thing. Because people said all kinds of shit, man. Like, he was really from Venus and whatever and whatnot, and just really fucking stupid shit. And like I said, like, it pissed me off to read that stuff because I feel like it robs a great man of his credibility. So a human didn't do that. A person like me or you, like one of our children wouldn't be able to do that or have these types of thoughts and goals and achievements because they're not from Venus or Mars or some other fucking planet. Fuck you, man. Fuck that shit. I refuse to accept that, especially just from all the people I know in my own personal experience where, just wild shit has been able to be done through the mind or to be seen and, deja vus and all of this. Like, I remember like one time, dude, I had a deja vu for about 10 minutes, like where I was living in a vision that I had in the past for like 10 minutes. And I freaked everybody out because I was freaking the fuck out. Like, is this real? Is this real? Like, am I dreaming? Like, yo, like, watch, he's gonna come through the door. And then somebody came into the door and I was tripping the fuck out. And everybody was like, yo, like, what is wrong with dude? And dude wanted to know too because dude didn't know what the fuck was going on. And that was probably the craziest instant for me personally where I had something like that happen. And it's nowhere near on some Tesla like creating the fucking AC polyphase electricity and shit like that. Like, no. But just, it's a reality that we can do shit like that we can project ourselves and we can go beyond the physical and whatever the cosmic energy is that intertwines all of us. Some of us can tap into it. Some of us way more than others. Unfortunately, we're not all the same. Not everybody's the same. It's one of the hugest lies of our era. We're not all the same. We're not in the same boat. I hate that saying, like, we're all, because we're not. We are in the sense of, we're the same creatures. We're all the same animal, but we're not the same on the terms of, we're just pumped out of a factory like the fucking clones. And they're all identical. Like, that is not how we work. And we are not in the same boat. And we're not in the same boat because a lot of us make our own fucking boat. And some of those boats are fucking shipwrecked. And some of those boats are mega yachts. And some of those boats are little dinghies just floating around. And some people would rather be on their little boat than be on a big boat and whatever and whatnot. And every spectrum in fucking between. But we're not on the same boat. We're in the same ocean. And that's about it. But I got super fucking sidetracked. What the fuck was I talking about? And this is the problem that we're going to have with these recaps is that I'm just freestyling here. I just have some thoughts and some bullet points and just some things that I didn't really get to rant on or get into. And this is what these episodes are for me to just fucking blah, get it out And maybe we're on the same page, maybe we're not, I don't know. But we're going to find out, right? But yeah, crazy, right? And so when he was in Pikes Peak doing his work out in Colorado, he thought that he received messages, right? And now Tesla was so certain that something else had to be out there because he was seeing things. And I think that was just kind of how he rationalized it, was like, there's just something more out there. And, you know, and those messages intrigued him. He felt like somebody was trying to contact us. And so he decided to try to pick up those messages, contact back, you know? And now there was a story that says that RCA built him these antennas so he could try to pick up the signals on top of his hotel room. But I couldn't really find anything substantial. He did have a working relationship with RCA because he helped, RCA helped him build some of his designs for the military, for radar and all that shit that he was working on for them. And I believe they were also part of Project Rainbow, which was the precursor to the Philadelphia experiment. One of the things, though, that did get Tesla really fucking hyped up about outer space was in 1901, the Lowell Observatory in Arizona was watching Mars. And for 72 minutes, a massive bolt of light was pulsing off the planet, visible from Earth. And they were so shocked about it that, you know, they were like, holy shit, there's people on Mars trying to contact us. We've seen this thing. We don't know what it is, but there's something out there. And that gripped Tesla's mind so hard that there was a possibility that there were people out there. You know, and so that bolt of light, he's working on these bolts of light, and he just made that connection. And he thought that that was a logical next step. Like, that was how forward thinking he was, that he was down the road that far to think about, at one point, we're going to need interplanetary communication. And so that's where he started to build up these designs to communicate with other planets. And it wasn't that he was in communication. He felt that others out there might be trying to communicate with us, and one day we're probably going to need the technology to communicate interplanetarily. And the thing that he supposedly did come up with for this interplanetary communication was called the Teslascope. And it was basically just an antenna that he modified to be able to pick up interplanetary signals. It's tough to find any real information on it other than kind of folklore, I guess, you know, because if it did exist, it was confiscated with all of his shit, and it definitely was not released. That was definitely going to be one of those chunks that did not get released back out to the public, because it's going to be something that the, you know, military is going to want to try to modify and work on. Now, something I did touch on just a second ago was the Philadelphia experiment, and I didn't know that Tesla was mildly involved, and that he basically was trying to develop a invisible shield with his Tesla coils, right? So he had a Tesla coil in the back, Tesla coil in the front, and a giant generator underneath each one, and they'd ramp them motherfuckers up, and it would create this huge static field around the ship, causing the light to refract around it, and in essence making it invisible. Tesla didn't trust that this wasn't going to hurt people yet, and they were trying to rush him to make him get this shit figured out as quick as possible. And he said, look, I'm not going to do it. And they were like, we really need you to do this. And he said, nope, fuck it, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not killing people just for shits and giggles, just to see if my shit works. You know, it's like, I need more time. I need to be able to do shit to work this out. But they didn't have time for it, and they didn't want time for it. They wanted that shit now. You know how this shit goes, guys. You know, they want it now. And so Tesla walked. Right? And now when Tesla walked, I fucking don't have the dude's name in front of me who stepped in and took over his place, but he didn't give a fuck, you know? And they went ahead, and that's when it became the Philadelphia experiment, where using Tesla's technology modified by what this guy had said, it actually caused everything to fucking disappear. And there was a gravity lock that Tesla had made, right? And it basically locked it locks your signature, your frequency to our magnetic pole frequency, right? So in our dimension, I guess you could say, right? So it keeps us locked onto this planet, because we all need to have a time reference to wherever we exist in the world, right? And that's like where you see in like science fiction where somebody moves from the past up to the present, and all of a sudden they like rapidly die. Their gravitational clock sees them as being down the road, and so they rapidly, aggressively age because of that. I think. I don't know. I just made that up. Maybe it's true. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows, right? But so yeah, and it was due to Tesla shit that when the Philadelphia experiment lit up and the boat disappeared, it had that gravity lock on it. And so that was what enabled the ship to come back. And when the ship came back, people were fucking fused halfway into the ship. You know, all kinds of wild fucking shit, dude. Like, watch that movie, The Philadelphia Experiment, right? Not Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and he gets AIDS. Not that one. The one, the military one, where the boat gets AIDS and everybody dies. But check that shit out, right? But I had no idea that Tesla was the precursor to the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia Experiment. Very, 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 very interesting. But again, you know, like, I didn't come across anything that really made me think that he was in communication, and I would be 100% willing to believe it. Like, sometimes my mind's too open, sometimes I'm too gullible, but I would believe that because I believe his mind was so powerful that, you know, he could probably do something like that. But he never really said anything like that. You know, it was all speculation and grandeur to get funding. And all he ever really spoke of was the people in his visions. And that is a powerful medium. You know, that is a very, very powerful thing to have these visions and to be able to see things in far off places. It's something that's been going on for forever, you know, and it's something that we've been trying to make sense out of forever. But now, even looking ahead, right, how we were talking about the space stuff a little while ago from episode 2, one of the things that I had actually found out was that the Japanese, or JAXA, their space agency, has figured out a way to use Tesla's technology to beam electricity around. And the company that is involved with them doing this is Mitsubishi. If you look up Mitsubishi and their shit that they had going on in World War II, it freaks me out. But I mean, whatever, it's just a military thing, you know, and so I understand. But I'm all freaked out with Space World War III. But they figured out a way to actually send electricity through the air using microwave rays. Now, they've already done it on Earth, and they've sent 2 kilowatts of electricity and were able to light up a light. And but now they believe the science is ready to move into space. And so basically what they're going to do, and the way the system works, is they'll have these massive solar panels, just like on a satellite, and that satellite will beam the microwave rays down to a receiver here on Earth. And the reason for microwaves is because microwaves won't be affected by the bad weather. But it's fucking nuts to see that Tesla's designs are actually being put to life again in another medium, where it turns out like he was very right. They have that shit ramped up to like fucking the 10th degree, and they're actually going to be in space harnessing the sun's energy and beaming the sun's energy back down to Earth or to wherever it needs to be beamed to. And that's also a fucking reality. And that, they're saying, is going to be done and ready to be operational fully by 2030. So 10 years. In 10 years, wireless energy is going to be a real thing. It's already a reality right now. But in 10 years, it's going to be in full use in a real reality as far as like a commercial application. But yeah, that was a lot of the stuff that I really wanted to kind of get off my chest. You know, like, there's all this shit that just kind of connects. Like, and there's so many things even just from these 4 episodes that all kind of trickle down and into each other, all the way from the Nazis and the shit that they were doing, and then up to going into space, and then how that all relates to Tesla's work and the clandestine organizations that were involved with him, and how that all affected Iran moving forward. It's all connected. And I guess that's just what history is, right? History is just a connected series of events that tell our story. And these 4 episodes, I have loved telling that story. I fucking loved going over the Tesla shit to see how he was born into this world and how he went out was fucking crazy, to see how we treated him, you know, to look at Iran and to really see why they are the way they are and who they were and who they almost were. You know, and I think that's something that we don't even know. Like, Iran was almost a beacon. You know, they were almost there. And I feel for them that they had that robbed from them, that they had that stricken away, you know, stolen from their hands, you know, that right to choose their own freedom, to choose their own path with somebody that was going to allow them to do that. You know, sadly though, like Daniel Chaucer said, the great beast, right? We are the great beast. And it's just crazy. It's crazy to see where we are nowadays and to see how it all kind of stems back over a lot that we've talked about over these past few episodes. And I'm looking forward to going over so much more in the future. So this will be the format. It's all going to get refined from here on out. After this, there's going to be a week off. I'm going to take next week off so I can work on the next 4 episodes coming up and really get them refined. And I got a whole bunch of new sounds and shit like that, so I'm going to organize that. And I also have a new show in the works called Social Suicide. The chains are off in that show. No holds barred. Nothing's off the table. Every taboo topic that I can think of, I'm going to try to bring up. I got some strong opinions on things. And this show is not the proper format for it because as much as I do interject with my own speculation and shit like that, I really want to stay on track as much as I can and just talk about these stories that I find interesting from history and that you guys ask me to talk about. And with that being said, please reach out to me. Find me on Instagram. It's at brightlights_scary_shadows on Twitter and Facebook. It is at wantsomespook. Find me on these places, guys. Hit me up. Talk to me about the show. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me what you want to hear about. I'm more than willing to take all the requests that you guys have to make this as, user influenced as possible. I don't want to just sit here and talk about what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the things that you guys want to hear as well. And that'll be what we do from here on out, all right? So every 4 weeks, we bang it out, we get our learn on, and then on the 5th week, we kick back, we put our feet up, and we just do one of these episodes. I will use this time to just prepare for our next 4 episodes and to give you a much, much better product. And as soon as Social Suicide is up and running, I will let everybody know and hope to see you guys there as well. Understandable, it might not be the show for everybody. Just like this show is not the show for everybody. I do drop a lot of the old F-bombs while I'm telling these history stories. And but fuck it, who gives a shit, right? I'm having a good time. I hope you are too. And yeah, so I think that's where we're gonna cut this one off. This has been our first quarterly review. And again, ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for taking this walk with me. I super appreciate all the kind words and all of the criticism as well, and all of the ways that everybody either helps me get better or motivates me to get better. I so appreciate it. I love all you guys. I hope everybody out there is doing well. And I can't wait to see you guys for episode 6. This one is going to be fucking wild. Episode 6 is All Hail Roboticus, our one true robot king. Oh man, dude, if you have fears of robots and shit like that, you might want to skip this episode. I don't know what that phobia is, but this one is going to be a little bit freaky, man. When we see where we stand right now, this is some Black Mirror shit. With the state of robotics and AI as they stand right now. We are in the new world, my friends. And that will be our first episode after the break. And I hope to see you guys then. Thank you guys so much again. I can't say it enough. Find me on Instagram at brightlights_scary_shadows. Facebook, Twitter at YouWantSomeSpook. And that's our recap, guys. This has been one more episode of Bright Lights and Scary Shadows.